Welcome to the pod. Today's guest tells us a story almost 15 years in the making. Starting off leaving high school, not really knowing what he wanted to do with his life, to then struggling making a living as a videographer, and eventually working with one of the biggest names in drifting. He breaks down some of his projects for us, explains some of his processes, and the crazy amount of work that he puts in to get these videos done. I found the conversation super interesting. I hope you guys do too. I could have talked to him for so much longer. A very warm welcome to Isaac Lyon.
Thank you.
Are you single, Isaac?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. So if you just imagine meeting your significant other for the first time at a party again, what do you tell them that you do?
What do I tell them that I do? I usually just
Yeah.
lay it pretty simple with just I'm a videographer, and then they usually realize I'm an artist and give up the conversation after that. um, but no, like it's always been for years that I've done so many different things and under the videography kind of umbrella. It's never been just what people kind of know me more for now, which is, Motorsport and Mad Mike and all that kind of stuff. I've been doing this doing videography for about 15 years now. So it's never been a completely smooth road on the career path in terms of what direction you take, or I've never had any kind of um, person to look up to as like a bit of a idol to kind of follow the path. I've kind of had to dig my own path along the way. So I've done lots of things from small business videos, TV commercials, music videos, car stuff, obviously, just to make ends meet. And I've been fortunate enough the probably last 3 years, I guess, if you don't count, COVID and all that kind of stuff, picking it up. But I've been working the last 3 years pretty much full time videography in terms of contracting for myself. But before that, I was just pretty much any job I could do as well on the side. Well, videography was on the side, so I was, roofing or landscaping and working at the warehouse when I was younger, but I'd just be hustling to try and get to car events or pay for some crazy camera or that kind of thing, just to kind of make sure that I was shooting at all times, pretty much always having a video on the go. But yeah, I don't know. Videography is kind of it's a cool job because you can kind of do whatever you like, really, but it's also a hard job because there's no right and wrong. So, your boss and your 9 to 5 job, who thinks he knows better, can kind of think he knows better. And there's no like, no, you're wrong, no, you're right kind of thing. So it's always fun kind of navigating those waters.
Yeah, the sort of preferences, because did a diploma in, what was it, back in 2011?
Yeah, yeah. So pretty much, so basically, I got out of high school in 2010, I think it was, and I was pretty much like everyone. Like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? I was thinking of doing some marketing degree or something just to fill the space, because I kind of knew I wanted to kind of get into that kind of businessy side of things, but not in a way. So I was just gonna fall into that, and I decided to do like a gap year at like Camp America, where
Oh,
you go over and you're a counselor for like kids that go on camp during summer holidays, and it was so much fun. Like I went to California and yeah, spent about, I think it was 2 or 3 months over there, and just it was cool to just get out of my comfort zone and travel by myself and break that ice kind of thing. And then I used all that money. So pretty much you get paid every week and you get a little slip in the
well, just to the side,
yeah.
my partner's kid is son's looking at doing Camp America when
I
on his thing, so that'll be
I definitely
interesting.
suggest it. It was super cool. I know some people that have had like kind of, because all my friends after I did it wanted to kind of do it, and some had real good experiences, some had kind of weird experiences, but You kind of get to choose your camp. I'm pretty sure if it's still the same way, like you kind of go into a ballot and like a whole bunch of camps will come at you and you can kind of choose from there. And my friend kind of just got like he just said no to so many that in the end he only had one to choose from, which was some Christian boys camp or something like that. And he's definitely not Christian. But yeah, so pretty much, you get your little pay slips at the end of every week, and everyone would pretty much, spend it on booze and all that kind of stuff while there. And I kind of kept all mine. So when I went home, I bought like a big Mac computer, and because while I was over there, I had like a little waterproof Sony camera, and it was like my first camera that I'd kind of had, and I was doing heaps of. Now I look back at it, I was kind of making videos or making content without subconsciously thinking that I was. I just thought I was taking photos of my trip and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like there was probably a little bit of a deeper meaning there, because I even came back and I had this still waterproof little camera, and I remember going to what was it? It was some moto event like Crusty Demons or something like that, and I'm in the grandstands with my like a waterproof camera, like zooming in like on these guys doing backflips, and then I'm pretty sure I went home and made like some edit with like Metallica or something in the background. But like I look back at it and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe there was something there. So had the gap year, which was awesome. Came back and still didn't really know what I wanted to do, because I didn't know that camera meant something to me at that point. And I remember I was at my mum's and she was watching some behind the scenes of Doctor Who, and it was just like fucking explosions and all this cool stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I want to blow some stuff up in the movies. That looks sick. So I pretty much did some research on like pyrotechnic freaking courses and all this stuff, and I just couldn't, New Zealand being New Zealand, there's not that kind of stuff just readily available. So I then thought, oh, wait a minute, just filming would be pretty cool. Doing camera work and working on movies and stuff would be awesome. So I looked up a school that I could do that at, and I found South Seas Film and Television, which was on the North Shore. It's now rebranded to like a more of a I don't know, like some other university's taken it over, so it's called something else now, and it's obviously diverted into more of like the digital age of the cameras that we're using now. Whereas when I went, it was, there was camera lighting, audio is what I studied. There was editors, there was directors, there was producers, there was art and design, and you all did your own courses. But then when we'd do projects, we would all come together, and you'd look after your own category, which was quite cool. But it was very, very old school methods in terms of, the big cameras. And, I went in. The good thing about that course was it was extremely hands-on. There was like pretty much no paperwork, I think, until the last week, where they're like, okay, we need to fill some shit out or whatever. So you were constantly going on film shoots and stuff. And it was quite long days. We would pretty much do 6 days a week, 8 till 5 every day kind of thing. It was they're pretty much squeezing a 3-year course into a 1-year diploma. But it was really cool to kind of get hands-on, because I was out shooting heaps of different stuff on the weekends. Like the main thing was the piece of paper at the end of this doesn't really mean too much. It's like the connections that you find through this course. So I was constantly, when we were out on shoots, I was meeting the DOP, which is the camera guy. I'll be getting his number, and I'll be making sure that, like, if he needed any assistance on any shoots in the weekends or whatever, I'd be there, because school would allow you to take days off if it meant that you could go on a shoot and stuff. So I was pretty much from the early days on, like, doing things like Shortland Street and music video productions, and yeah, working on all that kind of stuff. But you come
Classics.
in, yeah, it was yeah, it was a classic kind of upbringing. But like, I'll get on set, and I'd be like the 4th camera assist or something, and I'll be the guy that, I won the 50mm lens or some shit, and I'd have to crack open the box, get the 50mm lens out. I'll then pass it to another guy who would then put it on the camera, and then there'll be another guy operating the camera, and then there'll be another guy telling that guy how to operate the camera. And it was just like this huge hierarchy thing, where it was pretty much just that, like a hierarchy. And if you pretty much didn't grease the right toes and stuff and all this stuff, you pretty much wouldn't get anywhere that you wanted to get. I mean, you definitely could, and there becomes some cool stuff, but it was, yeah, I kind of wanted to do everything myself, from producing to shooting it to like kind of directing, and then obviously knowing how I shot it, I would then edit and then pass on the final product. But it was a very new thing back then. This was, going back 2012 when I first started kind of been like starting my own thing and going out and doing car events and saying to a business, hey, look, I really think you need some videos or some photos or that kind of stuff for your business. Now they're almost begging us, but it was a lot of the other way around and trying to convince people that it was the safe method and that they should spend some of their marketing budget on that kind of thing. But it was one of those things that once you kind of got a customer, they would think that they only kind of need you once, and you would price it real cheap for them so you could get them, and then they'd be like, sweet, thank you, and then they'd never talk to you again because they got their one marketing video, and you're like, oh shit, all right, we'll just do that again with another company or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, like school was good, but I definitely think you can do it now 100% without that kind of thing, because when I left, I didn't quite, it's one of those things where I think you should always study when you have some sort of a background knowledge in that topic already, so you can use reference on things. So a lot of those things when I was at school, I was learning for the first time, and now I think back to it like, oh my god, what, that thing that we studied that I thought was so boring or whatever would have been great if I actually had some practical knowledge, so I could actually be like, oh, that's how I set up the lights, or that's why you put a light behind someone, or all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think learning on YouTube is it's just so much easier these days. You can kind of find exactly what you need. Not exactly, you still have to tailor it a little bit, but you don't have some like egotistical kind of teacher, teaching you things, and the only things you learn come out of his mouth, and if you don't please him, then yeah, it's like kind of
Yeah.
as well the highway.
I always find I learn best when I've got like something, project, that I want to, have be undertaking. I tried to learn like coding, like computer thinking, but there was nothing I could really relate it to. So I
Yeah.
struggled with that. But with like videoing stuff and welding and everything, that was way easier because with the cars. So I
Yeah.
see where you're coming out with that. Because back then it would have been totally different. Like everything wasn't like social media orientated either, would it? So
No, it was kind of like this weird crossroads of like, hey, I want a YouTube video, but like my Facebook's popping, like, or this kind of thing. It was never kind of like Instagram or kind of quick. You look back at a lot of my old videos, which I try not to, and they're a lot like slower paced, and you have intros at the start and all that kind of stuff, and it takes like sometimes like a minute before you even see any drifting or something. But you just wouldn't survive in this day and age with those kind of edits. Well, sometimes I try to put them out, and I quickly remind myself that I still need to give some sort of clickbait kind of feel to the start of the video, no matter what I do and no matter who I produce it for. Even some of my stuff for Mikey, goes to the wayside because I don't add in the cliche stuff that people need to stay engaged.
the change in attention. So you roll out of the diploma.
Yep.
What are you heading up next? Are you straight into looking for like cars or businesses, or this is when the warehouse and all that hustle comes in?
Yeah. So pretty much bang on there. So what I did is I realized I didn't want to go into the whole big production type stuff like Shortland Street and all that kind of thing. So, and I realized there wasn't too much of a niche for what I wanted. So first goal was get a job of some sort so I can do what I want to do. So that was the warehouse or whatever I was doing at the time, so I could buy camera gear, hire camera gear, shoot whenever I wanted to shoot. And pretty much the main thing on the agenda there was music videos was huge for me. And I just kind of started getting into filming cars. So filming cars, I can't tell you how it came out. I'm pretty sure, like, I've always loved cars. I've never had the money to buy my own cars and do that kind of stuff. So I think when I was at film school, me and my buddy Simon O'Connor, shout out to Simon, my man, I love that guy. I haven't seen him in so long, but our first production company before I started Odd was called NBD Productions, No Big Deal Productions. And it was with Simon. He lives in New Plymouth, and we were housemates and or flatmates up in the North Shore when we were studying, and we got on like a house on fire straight away. We were so good together, and we pretty much hired a camera and we went down to the skid pan at Hampton, and we just filmed some of the boys in there, like Subaru Legacies and fucking whatever was out there at the time, friggin' 15 years ago, which is crazy to think that, the skid pan has just been abused daily since way back in the day. But yeah, we're just out there filming and stuff, and I'm pretty sure, I can't remember correctly if we finished the video and then he's seen it, or if he was at the event, but we ended up doing some stuff for Carl Ruderman, who was a D1 driver at that point, and I think he had just come out of I think he was still in his silver year at that time. I think he might have just won the D1NZ championship, and he had just started building that Subaru, the Gymkhana car, and pretty much so. Obviously, the Ken Block, Hoonigan, all that kind of stuff was huge at that point, and Gymkhana was all the fad. I think it was maybe I think we're up to number 2 maybe at that point, Gymkhana, and and we pretty much was like, I think he wanted to do like a production video of some sort with the same kind of theme. So Simon and I, with our hired cameras from school, went with Carl to, like, I think we were in Paidor in some warehouse area, like Cam Vernon was there, Chris Smith, I'm not sure if you remember Chris Smith, but Freshly Whipped, he's like a like absolute OG. Love Chris, he's the man. He really inspired me back in the day. But yeah, they pretty much got like a warehouse back in the day, and we're doing all these, like, drifting through the like little gaps in the doors, and getting Carl Ruderman to, like, drift around us while we're holding our cameras, and just real Ken Block inspired stuff, which was really fun to have that opportunity to do that, because at film school that was our main go-to source of content was Ken Block for sure. Like, that was like, oh shit, I want to do this stuff. This is crazy. And I mean, to put it into, well, no, we can get into that kind of stuff later, in a bit. But yeah, that's kind of what I got into straight away, and music videos pretty much. So I love music, and that's pretty much one of the main reasons I got into video stuff, is because I absolutely love music, and when I hear music, I kind of visualize things like video and stuff. I'm terrible at making music. So I was like, okay, we'll put that to the side. What else can I do with music? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's put some of my visions into into reality and make cool music videos for people. And there was, like, PNC and Scribe and David Dallas and all those kind of things that we had some stuff to do with, and Razor Bees. There's so many. Like, I was deep in the New Zealand music scene for a good 8 years maybe, just hustling, and it was hard, man, because they didn't get treated the best in the music industry, and they didn't get a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. And then when you're relying on someone who's already hard pressed and not getting enough money to pay you, it's a vicious circle of who's going to get screwed the hardest. But we moved into New Zealand on them funded music videos. Like, I was one of the very first self-produced music videos that actually got funding, which was crazy. Like, and that's when all these production companies and stuff in Auckland started, like, being like, oh god, these single production crews are going to start coming in and taking our money, because they all have their big big crews and all their way of spending massive budgets, and then for artists to see, oh wait a minute, can I actually get the same kind of video but from like maybe one or two guys doing the video? That seems like a way better way, and that's the kind of way it is now. There's a lot of cool, wickedly cool producers out there, like Connor Pritchard, like is the absolute goat at the moment. Like I remember when he was kind of coming up and seeing his fresh take on things, and I just remember thinking like these production companies are screwed with this guy. Like he is an absolute machine, and he is now probably one of the best in the world at producing music videos and stuff like that. Then you have Tom Groot. I can't remember if that's how you say his last name. He's amazing as well, like just solo as well. And it's just to see these guys like coming up and knowing that they're going to do sick, and then them actually taking over is really cool, because that's kind of what I wanted to do back in the day. But I guess I just transitioned more into car stuff after all the music kind of after I did the music videos. I just really knew that automotive, if I had to choose one, automotive was where I wanted to be.
You still did like all the real estate music videos, advertising for different things. So surely the film school stuff would have helped you out with shots and understanding all that.
Yeah, in a way, like I said, a lot of those technical things went kind of straight over my head in a way, like because I didn't have practical use to put them in. Like now, you know, when I'm sitting down two people for an interview, I realize, oh, that's why they're talking about headspace on the left, headspace on the right, stay on the same line, because when you're editing, it makes sense. Like you can't have it's just all those little technical rules that I probably would have taken for granted at the time, or whatever. But luckily, I think I ended up using them soon enough that I actually remembered them. You know, it wasn't like 10 years down the track where I was like, oh shit, what was that friggin', you know, what was I supposed to do with the lighting equipment or whatever? I was still able to kind of put it into play, but I think I would have taken it a lot more on board if I had actually been like, oh, that shoot in the weekend, I should have done it like that, because now they're teaching me this way. But I still think that, like you say, like YouTube, you can just be specific, like interview lighting setup, you know, and that gives you exactly that. And like, why do I do it like this or something like that, you know?
And when you shoot and edit it yourself, you often kick yourself in the editing because you're like, man, it would have been so much easier if I had have, sorted it beforehand.
Totally. And that's where you like come into a double play of learning, because you're teaching yourself from an outer perspective, you know, like you're like, oh, whereas people can become very complacent in their ways when they're just shooting and pass it off to an editor, and they're like, no, it's the right way, because they never figured out that what they did was actually causing a massive issue. But it also is a little bit of a hindrance, because I become lazy in the way of shooting, kind of, because I know how to save it in post. So if I'm shooting for someone that I know, if I'm shooting for someone who's going to edit it, someone else, I will shoot a bit clean. I will shoot a bit cleaner, or I'll do certain things, because sometimes when I'm shooting and I know I'm editing, I'll do it in a lazier way, because I know the certain little steps that I need to do to save it in post, but that's not actually the way you should do it. and another editor, because I've seen that firsthand. It's not that I think that will happen. I know it will happen, because I've sent stuff to editors back in the day, and I've been like, oh god, they didn't do that certain thing that I would do, and now it looks like shit, and it kind of looks bad on me. But it's, at the end of the day, I should have given them something that was a bit easier to use. But that's the thing with camera stuff these days, like with stabilization and 4K and autofocus these days, like so much stuff is so savable. Like back in the day, you know, I wouldn't even have a gimbal. I would have like this little thing called like a fly cam, which had like weights on the bottom, and it was like kind of like a counterweight thing, and you'd have like this little handle that would like swivel off this pole and the weights, and you would kind of like twist the thing like when you want to like turn the camera and all that kind of stuff, and no autofocus. So what I would do is I would be like, okay, I'm gonna move into this car, so I would find the focus for the car at the end of the frame, and I'd move back, and then I would like push in so it hit focus at some point, or stabilization. Like a lot of people don't realize that. People think that you can just grab a gimbal and run around and all that kind of stuff, but it's not like that. Your shoulders and your legs and your hips and your arms are all part of the stabilization, and you kind of have to just look like a complete numpty. If you don't look like an idiot, your footage is probably gonna look pretty rubbish. Because like I'm 6'1", and most of when you're dealing with most of the time you're shooting eye lines, but when you're dealing with a car, the eye line of a car is headlights pretty much. So that's pretty much hunchback over, trying to see what your screen's seeing. I've seen photos and videos of me filming. I'm like, oh my god, if my chiropractor's seen this, they'll lose their mind. Yeah, so it's yeah, I can't even remember where I was going on that one.
We started off at cleaning things up in post, but then
That's right.
yeah.
I mean, like the body takes a massive hit, like trying to just in every way, like shooting is a massive strain, and then editing, you're pretty much sitting in your chair for hours, and I've made it so all my hotkeys and stuff make it so my hands never move. Like they're all like all my mouse have a whole bunch of hotkeys, and then the keys I use on my keyboard, I just never move. So like my hands are like this for like hours.
Oh, were you not full time until 3 years ago, or was it
No,
all the ads and everything sort of filled
no,
up?
it was a little bit complicated. So I say I've only been for 3 years, but I've definitely been for longer. What was my last job is probably God, I can't even bloody remember.
You've just closed it out, you're like,
Oh yeah,
forget
like
that
I was roofing and doing all this random stuff. Like there was a lot of long hours while I was shooting and editing. Hold up, sorry, I just need to
part. Energize.
clear my mouth. I guess so maybe it was about, I'm gonna say probably about 7 or 8 years ago, that I actually was working for myself full time, which is pretty cool, because that's still a long time ago in terms of like how the digital age has kind of moved in the last couple years. It was a lot of sacrifice in terms of not getting paid every week, and relying on the people that are my friends and stuff, like the car community and all that kind of stuff, to kind of get paid. So, and with New Zealand being such a close community, you don't really want to piss people off, or that kind of thing, to try keep a long-term relationship. So when I say full time, I was still doing, like I was doing the real estate, I was doing all the business stuff, like to keep ends meet. And that was really cool, because I was able to find some really cool clients and producers and stuff that I worked with to get a lot bigger kind of jobs. I think I can, like, there's not many videographers that can say it, but I never had to do weddings to make ends meet. I have done 3 weddings. They are all my good buddies, and they're like fun ass videos, like that, like there's some Kanye West songs in there. It's just full vibes. It's not like I told them pretty much, if I make this video, I'm gonna make it like a car video in a way where it's like vibes and not some smoochy fucking bullshit. So, but I've never had to, be like, oh god, I have to pay rent this week, I'm gonna go fucking do Cindy's wedding, or whatever. Which I'm not hating on anyone who has to do that, because I
Not
understand.
hating on Cindy.
Yeah, no, I'm hating on Cindy, but I'm
No.
no. Yeah, I'm not hating on anyone that has to do that kind of stuff. But I was fortunate enough that, I don't know what I was fortunate enough. To be honest, it was hard. It was so hard. Yeah,
I
like
do not doubt that at all.
yeah, it's a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of like relationships and all that kind of stuff that I had to put to the side, and all my money was just pretty much reinvested into everything, and I was just living day to day, project by project. But then, and I really started to get my feet, and I was like, yeah, this is going well. I've got a good core group of people that are hitting me up for good work, and a lot of the good thing was I had good producers. Like, and when I say producers, it's not the common kind of producer. It's like um it's kind of people like who help out. They kind of help out businesses get on their feet and come to this new day and age where it's like, get a new website, get some good content, get some videos. And I had the people that were helping those businesses out. So it was good because I was doing lots of different business stuff, like, because that's what I was saying. It was the trouble of keeping someone long term, but my goal was to keep those producers long term. So whenever they got new clients or new business people, I would just go and do those new businesses for them, which was really good. And that was what was really working out. And then COVID punched me in the face and really fucked me. It was hard because at first there was no benefit for me at all in terms of self-employed artist kind of thing. And then they did end up bringing out a grant for the arts industry and all that kind of stuff at some point. I think it was like the next year or something. So the first year I'm pretty sure it was really hard, and then it wasn't. No, I remember there was multiple lockdowns. So it was the first lockdown that was hard. Second lockdown, they actually decided to be human and help us. But then you still have to pay whatever back and all that kind of stuff. But that was when I was like, oh my god. And the actual pivoting point for me to then go find a job was I had my hard drive corrupt, and it had about like $7,000 worth of work on it, and I don't know. You can imagine what goes through your mind at that point when you got bills ready to come out. You'd already figured out where that money was going to get you through to some certain point in life, and then your hard drive corrupts, and you're like, okay, first of all, how the hell do I tell these people what happened? And then they're going to be asking, why is it not backed up and all this kind of stuff. And so that's when I was like, okay, I need a job. This COVID stuff is too hard. Who knows when it's going to finish, all that kind of stuff. So I ended up seeing like a post on Instagram from one of my buddies, Regan, and he worked at Nautique wakeboard boats, and they were looking for a videographer. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, that sounds mean. Do some wakeboarding videos and all that kind of stuff. Still get to videos, still get to have fun and get paid every week, which would be great. And he hits me back and he's like, oh, it's not actually just for this company. We're actually a company under an umbrella, and it's actually for a certain family group, and they owned the rights to Nautique wakeboard boats, Life Fitness gym equipment, and Kawasaki motorbikes. So I was like, well, okay, well, that's 2 out of 3 for cool stuff. I don't really care about gym stuff, but at least I can bring in like a outside perspective, I guess, on what we can do to shake up some of their marketing. All I cared about was the fact that this was my first like full-time job where I actually got to do content creation, which is pretty crazy that a company hired a full-time content creator, and it was only kind of possible because they had the 3 brands. And it kind of went in hierarchy of Life Fitness, gym equipment, most important, then Kawasaki bikes, and then Nautique. So of course the one that I didn't like as much was the one that I would do all the time, but it was kind of cool. I like to go into businesses. That's why I like doing small business stuff, is because I loved to go in and be like, teach me everything about your business, because when I do your video, that's essentially what I want to do to the people watching it, is go from having no idea to understanding exactly what your goal is by the end of the video. So it was nothing crazy for me to go in and not have any idea about what I was doing, and then kind of find the right way to shoot it and market it and stuff. So that was kind of cool. And especially dealing with Life Fitness gym equipment is like a massive international brand. So was Kawasaki, and so was Nautique. And that was a really interesting experience. It was a lot of highs and a lot of massive lows. Some of my hardest times were at that company, just dealing with hierarchy pretty much, and this pretty much comes back to what I was saying earlier. And there's no right or wrong way for me to do my job. So that means that people up above me can have a opinion on something, even though I'm like, no, that's not the way you should do it. But there is just no set, like, yes or no. So they can, at the end of the day, they have the authority to do whatever they want. And yeah, that doesn't quite sit with me sometimes. And essentially, that's why I
Got a
would.
problem with authority.
Yeah, no, I kind of do. Yeah, it's just why I do what I do now, and why I'm willing to sacrifice a lesser life quality so I can do what I want to do, and not have to have the man breathing down my shoulder all the time. But I learned. I not only learned a lot, but I met a lot of cool people. It's where I met my partner now today, and I have a lot of wicked friends that I've met through all that. And I learned a lot of things about myself, and I learned a lot of things about the industry and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't meant to be. And pretty much, um, I think it was, yeah, maybe 3 years ago, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back out. And unfortunately, I'd lost like a lot of my kind of clients and stuff from all my freelancing days, because a couple of years away from them, they kind of found other people and all that kind of stuff. And fair enough. I mean, a lot of them did come back because they were like, we miss you, and we had to use Joe blogs to do some random stuff. And so it was cool to have some of them come back and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, do you want to go on to the next step? Or
Well, yeah, because along these, like, were you still doing like D1 on the weekends and stuff? You must
yeah,
have been.
so when I
Yeah,
was
because
saying
I
you,
remember you from further back then.
no, when I was doing all this Tay stuff, that was when I was doing all that. I was working at that Live Fitness and stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was
yeah, yeah.
juggling all of that on the side. Because at the end of the day, I was still going to do all that stuff that I loved. And I remember I told them as soon as I got there, I was telling them all the dates for all the D1 rounds. And, that's why I couldn't make all the rounds sometimes for Tay, because
Yeah, yeah.
I would have to go down to the South Island and do the Wakeboard National videos and all that kind of stuff. There was some things which was fair enough. I worked for that company. So like there were some events that were key for me to be at. But I always tried to make as many events for Tay. So yeah, there's that whole D1 side of things, I guess, as well. But just I was doing on the side.
Juggling, a lot of juggling.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then one day, do you just get a phone call? How does that work? Someone slide in your DMs?
Nah, not as simple as that. I wish it was as simple as that, because I mean a little bit of backstory. Like, so, like one of the main reasons of like when I decided to do video stuff, and like I was like, okay, I really want to do video, was like I want to film for Mad Mike. I want to film for Red Bull. Like, because I was seeing all this Ken Block stuff, and I was like, this is just so rad. And Mikey was pretty much popping at that point. Like it wasn't too early on. Like I've obviously known of Mikey for ages. Like I had the first wagon as a poster on my wall as a teenager, as a kid. Um, so like I've always loved Mikey and Red Bull, and Red Bull in my eyes growing up with that whole Mad
We'll
Mike
just
thing.
ignore that green can then.
Oh, 100%. Like, like I love Ken Block, but fuck Monster Energy. Like, and it's always just been like Red Bull. Red Bull's the coolest stuff. They do the coolest stuff. All the best videos I watch are Red
They
Bull.
do like
Yeah.
sick.
So like it was always the case of like, if I didn't make it in time to film Mikey, I just wanted to travel around and, film people jumping off rocks or whatever, anything to do with kind of Red Bull kind of stuff, anything adventure. So obviously having that in my mind, and then I've done things not with Mikey, but that have involved Mikey over the years. Like I mean, until this year, I think I'd shot every single Rotary reunion, and Mikey had, come to a couple of them, and I'd done interviews with him and stuff. And there's photos of me and him. Like he wouldn't have any clue who I am. I've showed him photos of us, like, and he's like, "Oh my god." And so like I've always still keep that in the back of my head that I want to do that stuff. So as any kind of person like that, you're probably going to message the person, be like, hey, if you need a videographer or anyone around, like, make sure that you just keep me in mind. I'll do the first one for free or whatever. So yeah, my DMs, my first DMs to Mikey are probably just so painful, honestly. But it's not just Mikey, like I would Instagram. To be honest, I probably messaged Mikey the least because I knew he wouldn't get the messages. So like, sorry to Tony, but of his partner, I definitely messaged her a bit, and then even Link, I remember messaging Link with like um, it was like with a thing at the start being like, please show your parents this or something like this. Like, I know you're like still a child, but please can you show your mum this message or something like that. And it's just like some long spiel about how long I've been doing it and who I've worked for and all this kind of stuff. And but how did it, so I guess Tony reached out to me at some point, and this was once I'd gone back out on my own after the whole life fitness thing. I was kind of deep into the, like, I was making a brand to, because I had to build trust back to all the companies and the producers and stuff that I had worked with before Life Fitness. I mean, like, I'm not going to go anywhere now. I'm going to make something totally legit. So we started making some like company um, that had me, like a designer, the producer, and we're going to offer our services to businesses like that. And that's where I kind of saw my future. And then I was just going to keep doing the car stuff on the side, but that's how I was going to make my money instead of trying to just squeeze money out of the car industry, which just wasn't possible. And then, of course, once I got all that underway, I get a email from Tony being like, "Hey, Isaac, just thought I'd touch base. We're thinking of doing a project that might be cool for you to be involved with." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so sick!" But also, of course, it happens right now. So I had to then go tell the people who I was starting the business with, being like, "Guys, I'm so sorry, but there something is coming up, and if it goes well, like, it's something that I'm gonna have to put my full energy into." And luckily the people that I work with, like, were real good. They know my core roots and what I wanted and all that kind of stuff. So they supported me through and through. But yeah, so pretty much I heard from Tony, and then I didn't hear back for like a couple months, I think it was. And I was like, okay, it's one of those things where I've learned over the years in videography, which is a massive thing for people to understand, is just never count your chickens before they hatch. Like, the amount of false hope and all that kind of stuff I've got over the years is ridiculous. It destroys people. And honestly, I would say that's probably a lot of the reason why there's just been so many videographers and content creators over the years, is just like that. There's always been this little thing dangled in front of them from people, and then they work so hard to get there, and it's destroying when the prize isn't at the end. So so I learned pretty quick to just, like, okay, don't take this whole Mad Mike thing for granted until it gets here, and just keep working hard. And then it's actually funny. I think I was actually working on my drift car for a drift force, I think it was, and I get a phone call, and Tony's like, we've got this secret project that we really want you to work on. It's starting in January. I think it was around maybe October or November at that point. And we really want to get you in to kind of see how you mold with the team and all that kind of stuff. Come shoot Summer Bash before you do the big project. There's a whole bunch of other stuff with Link, doing some driving and off-roading and all that kind of stuff. And we'll just see how we mesh before the big project. So I was like, sweet. So yeah, went and did Summer Bash, some MSC challenge with Link competing, some off-roading, and it was awesome. I mean, to be honest, the first video that I ever shot was Firsty, so the 808 wagon getting cut up, ready to be shipped over to Japan, which was ridiculous because, as I say, Firsty was on my wall as a kid, as a poster. And then obviously Mad Bull, the OG RX-7, is the epitome of how most people know and love Mike. So my first shoot was involving those two cars, and I was like, this is the most insane day of my life. Just like I got a photo of it, and it's Mikey standing in between, Firsty and Mad Bull, and it was my life made. Like I couldn't believe the fact that I was there. I was yarning with Mikey like we were mates, and we are talking about stuff, and then we go on to do a whole bunch of videos, and then they tell me that like, oh yeah, that project that we're doing is a McLaren, and we're turning it into a drift car, and we're going to do a full build series, 100-day series, and we're taking it to Goodwood. And I'm like, you what? Yeah, like we'd obviously all seen like the Lamborghini and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, they were like, we've done the whole just cut the guards and lower it and put fenders on it and stuff. We want to do something really crazy with this build, and we want to showcase it in a proper build series. So what they hired me for is not usually what I'd be hired for, and this is where I talk about the fact that like I would now I've learned that when I shoot for someone else when I shoot for someone who's editing it, I shoot differently, and that's how I learn it, because this whole production was actually this Mad Max thing is a big production, so there's a lot of people involved. So we have investors in UK and America. We have the production team is being run out of Australia, so the head of production lives in Australia. The production team lives in Australia, so like the director, the producer, the editor, all of that are over there. And then I was the on location shooter, digester, write all the notes for everything that happened each day, so that the editor could then go through, because I'm shooting every single day. I think I had 6 days off in 100 days, and a lot of those days are about 18 hours, because I would start my morning at like 4 in the morning. I would wake up, I would stop my downloads from sending all the footage from the day before to Australia. I would make sure they're all finished. I would then close my laptop. I would wipe all my cards. I'll do this. I'll do about an hour or two of stuff before I even, then go have breakfast, shower, and then I'll get to the Mad Lab, to the workshop at 8 in the morning, and that's a 40-minute drive from my house. And then I would shoot all day. I would have multiple cameras running. It was only me shooting. I would have multiple mics, all that kind of stuff, making sure that I'm getting constant piece to cameras from Mike, figuring out where we are in the timeline and all that kind of stuff, to what information we need to tell the viewers. And then I would, as we're shooting, I'd be writing down in my notes like exactly what we're shooting that day, so the editor, because there's just so many days of folders, that the editor needs, okay, I need suspension footage, so he'll just go through my notes and be like, okay, Isaac did suspension here, I install suspension, yep, cool, I need that. So I would have to write the most detailed notes I could, while then, and the thing is with these boys is they weren't really in the flow of the guys building the car. They weren't really in the flow of like, oh, let's wait for Isaac so he can shoot the shot. No. Isaac's fucking writing notes or downloading footage on his laptop in the corner, and I just hear a grinder going. I'm like fucking sprinting across the workshop, turning my camera on, making sure my white balance is set to the right white balance, making sure my exposure is right, making sure the mics are recorded, make sure the mics are actually recording to the camera. And I'm doing that usually while Mike's starting talking to me. So like the amount of times the editor's like, can you just make sure that when you start recording, your exposure and your white balance is all set? Like, yes, I do. I am aware. So, there's a lot of moving parts with that McLaren thing, with the McLaren project, and Tony and Mike getting me on for that was cool, but it had to be like a perfect fit, because I had to be reasonably close to Hampton. I had to be aware of like car stuff, what they were doing. Was this important? What questions to ask Mike to get information out of him, all that kind of stuff. What to know that I've already shot, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and then also someone who has a pretty good knowledge on the whole practical side, on the rules of shooting interviews and all that kind of stuff, because there's just no time to think. It was very documentary spec rather than like set up and shoot and get what you want, because we only had 100 days to build the car, so we didn't really have too much time for, hey, let's shoot this part of the episode again, or hey, can we get you reinstalling this fender, or hey, Mike, can you stop the car when we're driving to paint so I can get you driving past with the car, or all the little added on things that editors and all that kind of stuff really want. But yeah, we somehow made do.
So with all your previous experience, you fitted pretty well into the box that they of things that they needed.
Without being like arrogant or big-headed or anything, I truly believe I was built for this role. Like
Yeah,
I
that's
always
what I
have.
just think. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's nothing I felt more at home doing is all the stuff. Like I've almost been so stubborn with everything else that I've done, being like, no, it's something like this is gonna work out. Keep like learning and developing my things, my skill levels around what I want to do, because it'll work out at some point. And if I told myself that it'll take 15 years to get to that point, I don't know if I would have. I mean, I probably would keep going, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get what you say. That whole I haven't said much of this because that whole story was like pretty good. That is crazy to where you have got to.
Mm.
Um, how much filming equipment? Because you do how much traveling do you do a year? How much traveling have you done so far?
Last year was pretty crazy because obviously we did the build, the 100-day build. So that pretty much was our, I think, of February till July, I think it was pretty much in the workshop every day. I think we went to Japan once so we could go film the body kit getting made by Rocket Bunny, and a bunch of other things we did over there as well. And then after that, it was like full on. Like, we did multiple Japan, we did multiple America, we did Europe, England, Poland, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of it was jumping from country to country. So we would go, so I think, for example, I would come back from overseas, I would have a week, and then I would go to World Time Attack in Australia. And then World Time Attack, our crew would say goodbye to us, the mechanics, and then we would fly to America, and then our other mechanics would fly in there and meet us, and then we'll do our work there, and then those mechanics would fly home, and then Mike and I would fly to Poland from America, and then the mechanics that we saw at World Time Attack would meet us there, because it depends what car we have to what mechanics will work on it. But so those mechanics were like coming and going. But Mikey and I were going, Australia for a week, America for a week, Poland for a week, and then home, and then back to wherever we were going, kind of thing. So the hardest thing about all of this is trying to keep ahead of the fastest person on the planet. Like Mikey is like absolute animal and always has something going on no matter what. And that's like, when I say something, it's not one thing, it's multiple things. There's always cars overseas, there's always cars at home, there's always cars in transit, there's always cars being built, there's always cars being finished. And that's at all times, like at all times. So trying to keep ahead of things and edit wise and all that kind of stuff is been the biggest hurdle. So just for example, like my last couple of weeks, so it's been 2.5 weeks and I've been to Japan twice. I go to Greece on Tuesday in like 3 days, and then we go to Switzerland, and then we come back, and I think I have a week, and then we're off to America, and then we come back, and then we're off to Switzerland again, and then Goodwood in the UK straight after that, and then we're back, and then we're in America again, and then that's just till July, August.
So my question would be, are you like, what are your responsibilities? Is it just YouTube and you take care of like the social videos, like Instagram, whatever, Facebook? Is
Mm.
that your main focus?
So,
Oh,
so we've got some secret stuff on the way. I'll try.
I
Give you.
wasn't. I wasn't
No,
prying into like what exactly
no,
your.
no. I'll like I won't give away anything that I can't give away, but I'll
Yeah,
give you stuff that I can. Um, so basically, so okay. So at the end of the Mad Max series, so once we got that done, I think Tony, Mike, and we all agreed that this is awesome. Let's keep this going. Um, uh, because we've got links program coming up and all that kind of stuff, and I think it's Mike really wants to showcase more behind the scenes, so it was kind of the perfect fit. So we decided to move forward. So basically, one thing people need to realize is that Mike loves interacting with fans. He controls his Facebook, his Instagram. He has access to YouTube. All the comments that you see on all those profiles are Mike talking to people, are him responding. He genuinely knows the reason why he is where he is, and he loves fan interaction. So he'll still do posts on his Instagram story. He'll still do little edits. There's always like a little running joke between myself and Lincoln and him, because you've almost got the levels of like, there's me with quite a bit of knowledge, and then Link, who is insanely good at phone videos. Like, the man is growing up in like a digital age, and he's really good at making content on his phone and editing on his phone with CapCut. If anyone needs an editing platform on their phone, CapCut. I am not sponsored. I need to be. And then the running joke is that Mike uses Splice, which is like an old edit, and like, he'll always be like, "Oh, I'm gonna splice this video up, gee," all this stuff, and like, so he still loves making content, and at the end of the day, like, that's where he is. It's how he is where he is, because he's made cool content over the years, and he knows what's wicked. So, um, I'm just the filler for when we go to events and when we have promo stuff to do and all that kind of stuff. So, I'll go to an event, and my main things are, if there's no photographer there, like, I'll try to get some photos, or with 4K videos these days, screenshots are pretty good. So we can give them to their sponsors and all that kind of stuff, their partners, to be able to post. And then I'll also do a reel as fast as possible, to put out on the socials. And then I'll work on a YouTube video. So I'll just use the weekend, Japan, for an example. So we go to Gonsai, and I'm filming everything pretty much. So when I travel, it's a lot of work, because the videos that I'm making now are way bigger. It's not just the event. It's like the travel, the people that we go and see before the event, um, traveling to the event, loading up into the event, leaving the event, going to the next country. So what I'm steering towards more now is doing more like a series. So like, Japan series 2025, and it's got like the whole trip. So it's like maybe like a whole week, and like there's like 4 episodes, and it's like, we go and visit Daigo, and then we go do go to a comp, and then we go do something else, and it's just like the whole experience of like pretty much just tagging along with Mike for his whole trip, rather than like putting him in front of the car, being like, "Okay, this is what we want people to see. Hey, I'm Mad Mike. We're at D1GP, and we're only going to show you a select amount of stuff."
I
It's
think that's what people want to see more of these days, though. It's like the
totally,
the everything.
because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, like, we want to showcase to people that Mike is literally just a human, and you this stuff doesn't just fall on your lap. You
yeah.
have to work hard to get it, but it is 100% possible. And we want more people to have these opportunities to go overseas and have cars overseas, and do the world stage. Like, it's Mike and Tony. It's literally Mike and his wife that do everything that people see. Like, it's the most, and they have the most insane work ethic and drive to just not give up. That's pretty much it. So when I go to events, I work in that same mind frame that I'm now a third person in that 2-person cog, and I try to do as much as I can and just don't give up until it's over. So like I pretty much run myself dead at events because it's like like I'm trying to capture everything, and most of these Japanese events are like 1 day events, and it's the first time I've been there, so I'm trying to take in how awesome the event is, but I'm also like, okay, that's probably a good angle. Um, like that's probably a good shot for the crowd shots. Okay, I need to work out my timing in terms of morning. I'm going to put feet cam or face cam shots for the morning while the boys are getting used to the track rather than like outside shots, because I know they're going to get better at the track towards the afternoon. So I'll start moving the cameras to more visible spots so I can see tandems and all that kind of stuff. And what do I want to get in those early mornings when they're not as good? Is it more the interactions with the fans, with them just whipping past and the fans going nuts, or all that kind of stuff? And it's a real juggle on like trying to understand the event before it gets there, and the one in the weekend was really hard at Gunsai because it's a toge event, which is like a mountain road, so the pit was like quite a way away from where they're actually driving, and I get there, I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be hard, because when you're dealing with starting GoPros and not wanting to
Yeah.
have your GoPros go dead or run out of space, and that's me starting it and then having to leave and go into the middle of buttfuck wherever the hell I don't know where I'm going. I've never been at this track before. So I remember being at Gunsai in the pit, and it was like 10 in the, I think it was like about 9 or 9:30. And that's the other thing about the English translation in Japan, so I get told by a Japanese guy like, oh yeah, media briefing at 9:30. So I'm like, okay, cool, sweet as. So I had a little bit of time, so I chucked on the GoPro on Mike's helmet, I think, and then I started getting my cameras ready, and then all I hear is, media, leave now, leave now. I'm like turning around like, what? It's 9:30 media briefing, and I just see them all sitting on the back of a truck with all their high vis on, and they're about to get driven out to the middle of the track. I'm like, oh my god. And I'm like, okay, I had to run to Mikey. I'm like, okay, first of all, what track are you doing? Because there was 2 tracks. And then he was like, okay, what do you think? I was like, okay, well, I might go to B first, and then we'll do B, and then I'll get brought in at lunchtime, because you only get brought back in at lunchtime. And then we'll swap to the other track. So then I'm like, okay, you have to start your GoPro, bro. I can't check on another GoPro because they're literally trying to pull out of the driveway without me. And then I grabbed I grabbed 2 cameras because I was like, I need to make the most out of this. I need a handheld camera, and then I had one on a tripod that I could just put down, and because that's the only thing about shooting for one person is you have to make most of every time they go past you, because you don't know if they're going to break down. You don't know if someone's going to crash on that track, and then Mike goes and drives on the other one. I just never know how much footage I'm going to get of them. So you got to try and make the most of everything you can. So I'm like running with my tripod, my backpack on that has all my other stuff in it, my batteries and all that shit, and then my other cameras dangling off me, and throwing it on the back of the truck and jumping on. And then Mike runs back over to me. He's like, I need you again, I need you again. So I jump back off. Mike tells the truck person to just hold up for a second, and there's like some kid in the pits with like a Red Bull Mad Mike race suit on, and he's like literally like a 3-year-old. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen, and Mikey wanted some footage and stuff with him. So then I jump back on the truck and then get driven into the middle of nowhere, and then spend hours in there, no food, no nothing, get pulled in at lunch, back to the pits, and then of course what's happening at lunchtime? A Mad Mike demo in the pits. So then I'm in the car with Mikey filming him doing like a little demo, and someone let him borrow their car, and he did a demo on that. And then I'm like, sweet, now I can have some lunch. I get given like the barbecue thing, and then it's like, media. I'm like, oh my god. And I'm about to send the next load down.
Because when I watched, I can't remember what it's called. The Kansai, the
Dory Dory?
battling, huh?
Oh,
Dory,
Dory
yeah, Dory, yeah, it was that one. And I'm just looking at that, and I'm like, is this just Isaac? Like, was that everything is just you?
Yeah, there was two. I think there's two shots in there that isn't me because I couldn't get some forest stuff. But yeah, everything else is me, and I'm just trying to.
Do you have a like a Fitbit or any watch thing? Like the steps must be
I
insane.
always forget to take them, but it's like, I mean, for example, like just like a normal event at like Hampton Downs is like 20 to 30,000 steps, and these Japanese ones are like way more.
So then, how much gear are you taking? Like, how much? What's the? Because you'd have to be quite selective,
Yeah.
and then a lot of the things you wouldn't even know, like what's even going to be there to
I know. Yeah,
shoot in that.
yeah. You got it dead right there. It's one of those things I'm still learning, honestly, and it depends what event I go to because I got this lens, it's like a kg or something right here, and I'm like, if I don't have to take this, then I don't want to, like so the last trip to Japan was Gonsai, which was the Toge event, and I know it's super enclosed with trees and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to need a lens that can, shoot to the moon. So I decided to save weight. I won't take that lens, and I'll just take one of my other lenses, which it worked out to be the better choice. But there was obviously some situations where I'm like, oh man, I wish I had my zoom here or something like that. But I just have to sacrifice, and weight is a massive thing with traveling overseas with me because I don't have the luxury of just having heaps of baggage allowance and stuff. Like we still have to keep things at a reasonable cost and all that kind of stuff. But we don't have, and that's the thing that people think that since I'm working for Mad Mike and Red Bull is we just have unlimited money. We don't. We have return on investments that we have to stick to, and we can't just blow the costs up willy nilly. So I have to, yeah, no, a lot of the time I have to be within the 23 kg, which is really light. But you do not want to feel my backpack. My backpack is probably nearly 17 kgs, almost as heavy as my as my actually check-on bag, because I don't even have anything that I want in my carry-on bag. It's batteries because you're not allowed to put batteries in your check-in, and that's a lot of batteries. And it's the running joke that whenever I go through the scanners that I always get pulled up because of my batteries. The conveyor belt, and then my bag waits, and then it goes, yeah, no, you're going to get manually checked. So like Link and Mike are always standing there waiting for me, going, yep, and again and again. So batteries.
What do the customs people say? Because I've had that once when I've had like a backpack just full of GoPros and 360s and whatever, and they're just like, oh, it's just a lot of them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're like,
I mean, some people act like they've never seen a camera before. I swear. And to be honest, it's usually the international ones that are not too bad. It's like when I came back from Queenstown, when we did Southern Bash.
yeah, I think it was Queenstown that the lady thing to me too.
The bro like pulls my bag out and is just like pulling and just everything out. And like all my batteries, all my camera and stuff. I'm like, have you never seen a camera before? I couldn't believe it, but I don't know. What I do now is to make it as easy as possible. Is I have a clear bag. I'll show you. I don't have all my batteries in it at the moment, but I literally just go clear bag, all my batteries, and then when they open up my bag, they can just pull this out and go, oh yep, sweet as, and it's done. But then I've also got my memory cards and my headphones and my two cameras, usually my a lens in there, and my laptop, which is a really heavy laptop. I don't know why I got the biggest one.
For
But
that
yes,
editing grunt, I guess.
yeah, well that's right, and I just prefer a slightly bigger screen because I mean the laptop screen as it is already too small. Like as you can see behind me, I have like my wide screen for at home. So when you're away on a laptop, it's very restricting when you're used to having so much real estate.
Yeah. So what are you just taking sort of two cameras, some GoPros,
Yep.
mics,
So
360s?
yeah, so yep, so pretty much it. So two cameras. So I've got my FX3 and I've got a A7S III, and then I've got a GoPro 12 and a DJI Action. Don't ask why, unless you want me to crap on GoPro.
I can understand
Yeah,
that.
I have issues with action cameras. So I've got those two action cameras. If you ask me which one I like at the moment out of the GoPro and the Action, uh, different reasons. The mounts on the GoPro are cool because you can thread straight into a GoPro, but the Action, the DJI Action,
Flip
I
thing,
think,
eh?
yeah, I think I like the actual camera and the footage better on the DJI. But anyway, yep. So there's that, and then I obviously have my big fluffy mic on that I take. I usually take my rig as well, which can be a bit cumbersome because it's got, like, two handles, the monitor, and all that kind of stuff. Then I also take my DJI Mic 2, best piece of film equipment I've ever purchased. Yeah, this is my second pair. I've got two of them. Just so good. Like, internal recording, 32-bit float, which is, for people who don't know what 32-bit float is, it's pretty much just so, dealing with Mike, he has really loud cars. So naturally mics will distort, like when a car gets too loud. But if you internally record to those, you're able to bring it down so it doesn't clip, which is so good. But yeah, really good because I also have the hot shoe attachment for the top of my camera, so the audio gets put straight into my video. And I'll run both mics sometimes. So I'll run a mic on Mike's chest sometimes, and then I like to have the live audio as well through my mic on the camera. So I actually I plug the mic on my camera straight into the second one and put it under my camera. So that means when I record video, because of the little hot shoe adapter on top of my camera, my left channel is Mike's voice and my right channel is my
Yeah.
shotgun mic on my camera.
Right.
It's a little trick that I've
Yeah, because I'm on the Pocket 3 at the moment, and
yep,
it does the same thing if you slip on. And I've also got the Rhodes. I bought these Rhodes like ages ago. They do the same thing, but they're just a bit bigger and
they are,
um
yeah.
thing, whereas the DJIs are a bit
And
smaller.
yeah.
So then you're that's the gear. When you shoot, like if you're doing a reel,
Mm.
are you still trying to do landscape and crop it to portrait? Why are they?
Yeah, because it depends if I'm doing a video that's just for reels. If I know that the sole purpose for this is a reel and there's no other use for it, then I'll shoot it in reels, which is obviously easier because you can frame it properly.
Yeah,
But
that was going to be my thing because I see a few people and they obviously are shooting like landscape and then they're trying to crop to
yeah,
portrait and it gets a
yeah,
bit weird. So I was just wondering if that is
yeah.
something that you.
So and now, obviously, now that I'm working more long term with Mike, a lot of the things that I think about is reuse for a lot of things. So even if they're like, "Oh, this is only going to be used on reels," I think like, "Yeah, but maybe what if I want to bring this footage to YouTube or something later on?" So then I might. I'm trying to think the last thing that I shot portrait, and it's probably just piece to cameras that are like, "Hey guys, I'm coming to blah blah blah," like little promos for promotional for partners and all that kind of stuff. Very rarely is it like a cinematic piece or an event. Like all those event reels are all cropped out of my 16 by 9 landscape. But one of my favorite edits that I've ever done is my McLaren, my Mad Mac reel, which was my release reel when it first got announced, of it all done. And I did some tricks on it that once I tell you, you'll be able to see it. But it was quite a cool way of cheating the system a little bit. So what I would do is I would have my landscape shot, and it would say a shot of Mike rolling towards me. And what I did is, so the top and the bottom of the frame, the natural frame, was sky and asphalt. So what I would do is, instead of making the picture as big as I can, so it takes up the whole frame, and then I'd only see like a piece of the headlight, like it would restrict the framing of the car. I wanted to see the whole car. So I'd make the frame the size it needed to be on the portrait so I could see the full car. But obviously that meant there was heaps of black bars up in the top and bottom. What I would do is then I would then replicate that clip another 2 times on the timeline, and then I would make sure that the picture, the one that I've put there first, is on top, and then the bottom one I would just make it bigger, and I would just put it so the asphalt. So like I would enlarge the asphalt, put it
Yeah.
up, and then I'd have to crop it so it didn't go over the top black bar. And then the third video on the timeline, I would enlarge it so the sky was big. And then what I would do is on the first clip, I would just put a crop on on a swiggle, and then put a heavy feather so you can't see the crop line, and then it just extends the sky and the asphalt to make it work on a portrait, but it kept the proportions of the part of the video that I like to see exactly right, which was interesting. And I actually did it on about, you can play this clip if you're using this or whatever, so people can actually see it. But there's probably about 6 or 7 shots, maybe even more than that, in that one video of where I did that exact same thing, just so I can have the full car rather than like cropping into it for the portrait. Just time consuming, but it makes it look cool. But you can kind of see the sky shift a little bit in the very first shot. You'll see it like kind of dip up and down a little bit. But yeah. I like that kind of stuff, the tricky stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say some tricks of the trade. Is there any piece of equipment that you'd just love to add because it'll make your job so much easier?
Oh gosh. Another piece of equipment that would make my job. I really want a car rig. Like it's not that it makes my job easier. Like this is probably not an easier job. This is, what do you want? And I'd love a car rig. What would make my life easier is probably something that doesn't exist. So I'll give you one for shooting and one for editing. So shooting would be, it probably does exist, but it takes a bit of work. So rigging up the cameras in the car so they're more permanent or have power,
Yeah, I
and
feel that.
also recognize ignition.
Or yeah. So you can just or set them to the ECU, so at a certain amount of throttle they'd switch on or something. Yeah,
Exactly it, bro. Exactly it. So
yeah.
I actually did a little bit of testing on a shoot, which is always the stupidest thing when you're like testing something, and if it doesn't work, you're screwed. So I was at World Time Attack, and I found out about this. It's GoPro software, but it's like it's beta, and you can put it into your GoPro, and it can do a whole bunch of like random things. And one of them was, once it feels G-force, it starts record, which was like, mean, sweet as. I'll put it on the car, and as soon as he starts moving forward, it'll start record, and that's all I need. Because that was another track where I would have to start recording, like run about 2 kilometers into the blimmin' infield and hope that I got the whole clip. So of course, what happens is, he pulls out of the pit, it's recording, he goes, lines up and stops record, and then doesn't turn on again. So I didn't have any in car for like 2 of the battles or something like that. But I really want to try have something like that where it can save my time a bit. And but the only thing is, when you're dealing with Mike and he has so many different cars, and you're doing something that's hardwired into the car, all of them need to be done, and all of them have different roll cage systems and ECUs and all that kind of stuff. But looking at something like that will definitely, I feel like GoPro and stuff should be integrating stuff like that. Like automotive is such a huge part of GoPro's industry, and they're like $1 billion company, and all they do is make an action camera. Like they are one of the, I'm sorry to say, most disappointing brands in the media world. Like look at DJI. they do so much stuff, and they love the industry, and that's why I will like always back DJI no matter what. Like I have little bits of issues every now and again, but I have so many bits and pieces that are DJI, and they always invest back into the industry. Whereas GoPro has made billions of dollars, tried to make a drone like 6 or 7 years ago, failed at it and gave up, and then just still make the most mediocre action camera on planet Earth. I'm sorry.
No, there's definitely like a lack of what do you call it? Like there hasn't been too much improvement over the
It's
last few things, and
the Apple syndrome, you know. They
yes,
know they get the money. Every update they do is just the most minuscule update, and they just bring out a camera every
yeah.
year.
Even something like, you could link two cameras together, so when you push record on your phone, it fires
Bro,
them
come
both
on.
up.
And people always like, oh, why don't you do the thing on your phone and Bluetooth the starting? But like they drain their batteries are so rubbish, and you have to have like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or whatever on for it to be able to connect to your phone. That the battery dies before you even
Yeah.
do that kind of stuff. So I'm like, who's using these cameras and what are they being used for? Like, surely it's not just billionaires in their skis going down bloody mountain slopes. Surely most of the people are like automotive and all that kind of stuff, you know?
Well, I'm sure
So,
there would be a big thing of like automotive people.
oh,
Um,
massive, yeah.
so then, what do you, when you're putting these videos together, you mentioned a little bit before about clickbaity. I wouldn't call them clickbaitiness, but like your hooks. How much do you look at your attention? Are you editing in a specific way for YouTube, or is it still very much like how are you putting it all together?
Yeah. So YouTube, there's a few things that you kind of have to, and I'm still like and that's people think that just because I work for Mikey, like I've got the recipe and stuff, but I'm still figuring this stuff out. I'm still failing, and I'm like I'm it's a beast YouTube. So pretty much the things that I make sure that I have is the video starts with a face. It kind of doesn't matter like what you're doing or whatever. Like some of the videos I haven't done that, some of them I have, and you kind of notice that initial straightaway drop off if they aren't being talked to straight away or given some sort of like a promise or something like that at the start. You're going to kind of lose them, and then you also have to integrate that with your thumbnail as well, and like you can't lie too much with your thumbnail. Your
Are
thumbnail.
you doing the thumbnails? Do you design
So
thumbnails as
I've
well?
always, and I hate it because when I finish the video, I'll finish the video, which is a huge video. Then I'll be like, okay, now I need to do. Then I'll do the attention grabbing start of the YouTube. So I'll edit the whole video, and then I'll go through and I've color coded things while I edit that are cool things. So I'll go grab all those color coded things, and I'll bring them to the front and make a catchy front, and then I'll once I'm finished that's the whole video exported, and then I'll make the thumbnail. So I'm pretty much at the most uninspired point of my whole editing journey when I'm making the thumbnail. I will say that I am the last video that we did, the Gunsai one, is the first one where I've paid for a YouTube thumbnail, and I'm gonna start paying for them now because I want to start having more of a theme, and I'm not a designer at all, and I don't really want to pretend I am. And I feel like it's quite important with that kind of stuff. And I want to try different things. But for me to do that, I need a designer because, yeah, I don't have that capability to do. I kind of know what I want or what looks good, but I don't necessarily know how to get there or how to do it fast. So I have done them all up until now. But it's just like a weird thing. It's like so many people do it differently. Some people make them very bland, and so it's easy to read the text. You see the person, and you see one car, and then it's like a very plain background. And I've probably shot myself in the foot with some of the ones that I've done where they've been quite busy, and you can't necessarily read them or too many words. But it's one of those things that I feel like you kind of have to figure out as you go. But I think the main thing I figured out is just don't lie to them in the thumbnail and then once they get to the video, they're like, "Oh, this isn't even the same topic," or they're obviously lying or something, like, because they will leave straight away. So what I try to do is I try to have a punchy thumbnail with some punchy kind of words, and then I have the script, like the title of the video is a more realistic version, but it ties in with the thumbnail, and then the first shot on the video has something to do with both of those, so that people feel like they're not being lied to straight away. And then it goes into like a punchy 15-second of what's on this video, so people can be like, "Oh shit, I want to see more of that," and they have to wait. And then I usually cut to black and then start more of a slow, which I like. I especially these bigger, longer videos. I don't like them all to be completely spastic all the way through. Like I'll give them their spastic 15 seconds at the start, and then I'll lead them in nice and more gradually. But what I do find with YouTube is that I do have to have like hooks through it, like, so like it'll go kind of gradual for a little bit, and then we'll jump into like the topic of what we're doing, and it's like music and all that kind of cool stuff for like a finite amount of minutes, and then back into blah blah blah. But this is the difficult
Is that
thing
what
of
they call pacing in the
yeah
thingy?
pacing, and
No, it's just I was just making sure I understood the lingo because I've heard pacing before.
yeah. So that's it. But like you got it right with the hooks before. Like you want to pace it, so just like a movie, it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. You don't want to hold the down parts for too long, and you don't want to hold the up parts for too long, because you know some people hate the songs. Some people want to hear raw audio. Some people, so I give people a bit of everything, and especially when you're dealing with a 50 or 30-minute to 50-minute video, boy, you could do it so many different ways. You could have music throughout the whole thing, but then you're trying to find 15 songs, that are actually usable. So I just try, what I do is for my choosing my songs is once I kind of get my shots together, I'll kind of know the vibe of what I'm going for. So then I'll go into my the website where I get all my licensed music from, and I'll just start middle, start middle, start middle, start middle of every song, just figuring like the gist of like because 90% of the songs on the license programs are just absolute trash. And it's so funny because people roast me about the songs in the comments all the
No,
time.
on the Dory Dory one, I think they were quite impressed with the music
It was
selection on that one.
No, you're dead right. And you got to remember, like, I just see one bad comment and think, like it's the Dory Dory one was very good. They did like the music, but then there was like the odd guy that'll be like, "This is the worst set of songs I've ever heard," and I was actually really stoked with that whole setup of songs. I was like, "This is real cool punk," and like it was very Japanese theme without being the cliche guy who puts a Japanese song on a Japanese video. I could have done that, but I thought it was quite cool and punk, and actually what the people there felt to me, so I thought it worked well. And all I want to do is I just want to comment back to that guy being like, "Cool, my next video, give me 4 songs to use. They all have to be licensed music, and you can choose whatever ones you want, and I'll make the whole video on what music you choose." You can see how hard it actually is to like have upbeat and normal and stop the music so you can hear car audio. And it's I'm always in my own head of like what people, I am trying to please the people in a way, like with these videos. I'm not necessarily trying to please myself, which is an interesting thing. Like I do please myself with like little bits and pieces. I'll make like cool little sequences. I love sequences, and then I'll go back to the normal flow of things.
Does Mike ever get into like giving you opinions on the videos, or does he sort of let you do your own thing and then
No,
understands that you probably
he's pretty good. We're usually on the same wavelength a lot of the time. When he's got changes, it's not necessarily like anything drastic. Yeah, like he does trust me on he does trust me on a lot of things, but obviously he and I will sometimes have different perspective on some things, but just communication really, and just and explaining why we both think a certain thing. And I feel like at the end of the day, it's not life or death. You kind of just move on and on to the next one. You can't kind of linger too much on these things, and you know, I'll
I
get.
was only asking because you're saying before about when you had a boss in the hierarchy, and you're like,
Yeah, no, he is. No, it's absolutely nothing like that at all. It's nothing like that at all. Like we work more as a pair rather than him trying to squash me down. Like the other guys would like try force their bossness onto me, whereas Mike is more just suggestions, really. And it's not even necessarily for that video. It's like a suggestion, and then we integrate it into the next one. And it's just a way that I get more into the flow of things. Because one thing that working with Mike is I don't do a lot of back and forth with him. He's extremely busy. He gets a million messages every day. Half of them he doesn't even read his email. Like, he is so busy that like I don't have time to send him like a real rough draft. I never do. I won't send him like a really, really rough draft. I send him a finished video. Like I just go full all the way to the end, get it done, and I'll go through the draft process. I go through the draft process with him in my head. So I'll finish my first draft, and then I go through in Mike's perspective, and I'll edit it like that. So my first 3 renditions aren't even with Mike.
yeah,
Like I'll do it like in his perspective, and that's the way that it's good, because I've got the years of experience of, you know, dealing with drivers and all that kind of stuff, and what they like and what I don't like. And now the, you know, couple of years that I've worked with Mike, I've learned what he likes, what he's good at, what, you know, what he's not good at, what I need to, you know, because I'll be behind the camera and I'll ask him certain questions, kind of thing, when he doesn't go into certain detail and all that kind of
yeah.
stuff. But yeah,
That is
yeah, no, we
definitely a
work really well.
skill.
Yeah,
Trying to
you
get
can't have.
the story out of people, eh?
Yeah, or
Yeah,
the right story, and
yeah.
even how the story is said is important as well. Like getting them to repeat what I've said, or integrate the question into the answer, and
So that you don't have to have your voice on their video.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you learn that a lot when I'm dealing with them when I'm dealing with the mechanics or whatever. I'm like, oh, cool. So why did you put that seal in there? And he's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, because I have to. Oh, god damn it. Yeah. So Mikey is really good with that in terms of in front of camera stuff. I almost have to bring him away from a too polished um aspect sometimes, because there's obviously the stuff where it's cool to have him direct to camera, um talking about what's about to happen or whatever. But then when we're in there doing that stuff, I like him to just be real on the fly, like over his shoulder, doing the thing, talking to me like the camera is just like one of the boys kind of thing. So I just have to remind him sometime, no polish, just hit me. You know, like we've got the polish bit, just hit me with a conversation. And that's what I think people really like. And they're like, oh man, Mikey's
Yeah.
actually the boy, the boys, you know?
So are you going through on the YouTube thing? Are you going through the analytics and the graphs to see where stuff's falling off, and like how much do you pay attention to that sort of stuff?
I look at it, but I don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And it's all pretty much exactly how you expect. It's all, once Mikey gets in the car, it comes back up, you know, like it's, I do look at it in terms of how long I have my mundane talking pieces for, though. Like that's where you kind of see, like, if I have him talking for too long with no B-roll shots or no stopping or whatever, that's where you can have like a bit more of a drop, because it's always coming down. Like the first 30 seconds is almost like a straight drop, and then how you grab them almost, and then you kind of want them to get in a car or something kind of straight away to kind of peak that. Um, but it's all pretty relative. Like it comes down and then it kind of stays pretty great. It's always going to come down a little bit, but you'll kind of see when he gets into a car and when he gets out of the car and when he gets into the car and when he gets out of the car.
Mm.
Um, and that's a reference to, say, the 787 testing video, which has almost got 1 million views, and you can pretty much see exactly when he gets in and out of the car to talk about the car. But people still stay for him to talk about the car. So So it comes along and it goes up, but then it comes back down to pretty much where it was before. They don't go. They just, I think what they're doing is they're skipping back to that point where he got in the car. It's not necessarily they're leaving. It's like, oh, I want to watch that again. And they go back and they'll go back, and like, and as sad as it sounds, it's always, the crashes or the things that go wrong. And that's what I friggin' hate about clickbait and YouTube. And it's just the algorithm rewards those people so much for having massive controversies in their YouTubes that like 80% of people are just absolute full of it. And they're just not being truthful, and they're driving their entire content around how can we be controversial.
Yeah.
And in New Zealand, you can't really do that stuff because it's such a small community. And if you're like, oh, my sponsor freaking sent me a broken part, like, god damn, like I'm gonna roast them online. Oh, cool, you ain't got that sponsor anymore, and other people won't want to work with you, Whereas in America, somehow they thrive off that stuff.
Yeah, I guess it's like the kind of audience you want to bring as well. Like, if you want to have people that get all into the drama, then that's what you're going to do. Whereas if you want a more car focused audience, I guess, not so much the drama focused, then you'll still do it, to focus more on the cars and the personalities and
a big thing that people say to me is like, oh man, why does Mike's channel not have that many viewers? And it's for that subscribers, sorry, and viewers, but it's for that exact reason, is that we just don't want to quite sell out to the point that we have to do daily videos, weekly videos, or controversial stuff. Like our stuff may be slower growing, but like you say, it's way more authentic people, and the people are way more engaging. Like our retention rate is massive. Like we get people staying on videos for like the majority of people stay for like 11 minutes or something, which is crazy to have people, like the majority of people staying for that long, like our retention rates are really, really good now. And they're just always going up. The one thing, our videos that we put out now might not necessarily go harder than say the McLaren videos or whatever, but our retention rates and the click-through rates are always above average, always above average, always above average. But the view rate is lower, but our people want to stay, want to watch, want to comment. And we just got to try keep it that way. The only thing with that is less revenue, and all that kind of stuff. But we would just rather be more authentic for our viewers.
Yeah, well, otherwise you'd, twisting it or doing something weird that's not.
Yeah, and we're not against putting in some controversial stuff, but it's always real. It's always
Yeah, it
natural.
would have to have actually happened.
Yeah, and to be honest, I always forget to do the controversial stuff. Like something crazy will happen, and I'll almost stop filming to like help out what crazy thing happened. I'm like, oh wait a minute, I'm supposed to be one of those guys that when someone's getting beaten up, I just stand there and film. It's like those guys on like freaking World Star or whatever, and it's like, cool, there's like this massive scrap happening, but there's just this one guy on the outskirts just going, yeah,
World
gonna get a
Star.
million views.
So how much of the stuff you learned at your film school do you think you actually use now?
Oh, it'd be in the low, like 5%, 10%.
True.
Yeah. It's not. It's only when I get to like the more practical stuff where I like sit people down, do interviews, set up lighting. Whereas a lot of my stuff is just so run and gun. Like I don't have time to set up lighting. I don't have time to set up proper stuff. All the editing, every single bit of editing. I didn't learn a single bit of editing at film school. Like it was just camera, lighting, audio. Editing was a whole different degree. So
what do you use for editing? Are you Adobe?
So I started with Final Cut when I first got my Mac, and then when I started doing more collaboration projects and having to share files and all that kind of stuff, which was pretty much a year or two into it, I went to the whole Adobe suite. So Premiere, I don't use After Effects. I think I can do pretty much most of my stuff that I need in Premiere. After Effects is, yeah. I'm also not a big fan of Adobe. GoPro and
Oh, is
Adobe
it?
are my best friends. It's just like the fact that Adobe is now a subscription platform is slightly disturbing. The amount of money they must make and the amount of money that I pay them. The trick is to just be a student. I don't. I've been
No, we've got to cut that down.
hell no. I've been a student for 10 years at the Waikato University. Bro, it's like $113 compared to $49 a month.
Yeah. I went Da Vinci because
Free?
free,
The
and
one?
then when I wanted to get a bit more into it, it's just a one-off thing. So
Oh, is it?
yeah,
See, the thing is, I really want to go to Da Vinci. I love Da Vinci as well because that's another brand like DJI. Because I'm not sure if you're aware, but Blackmagic cameras is it's the same brand as
yeah, I
Da
knew
Vinci.
Blackmagic was.
So they literally made it because they are videographers. Yes, boy. Oh, we could talk about that because I kind of want to see if I need one of those. But yeah, I love Da Vinci, even though I don't use it. I just like it because they are for the filmmakers. They're there and they have it for free. That's how much they love filmmakers. That most people that I know that are like getting into the industry don't even really know what they want to do have DaVinci because it's a free software and it has what they need. Obviously, they can pay to go up to the more advanced version, but a lot of the people don't need it. Whereas, yeah, like Adobe, I just feel like I'm constantly crashing. I'm constantly itching my head. Like, why are they not improving this stuff to the point where like it's just intuitive? Because that's the other thing where we're talking about, is there a tool that I would like for editing? Would be cool to be able to have a lot more AI focused stuff to help me get through my footage faster.
Yeah, well, that's what I was. I actually had a note in here somewhere about if you use any AI, but
I use a
I'll
lot of
find it.
AI, man. Bro, like people who talk smack on AI are gonna lose their jobs. That's pretty much it. Like AI ain't gonna take their jobs. People with AI are gonna take their jobs. AI for me lets me be a one-man band. Like I do full on product. Like it's not just me going and shooting videos. I have full on production shots. I do all my planning. I do a lot of my so I'm doing a build series at the moment for Mikey for one of the cars. And since it's over so many days and I don't have another editor doing this, I'm doing a similar thing to what I did at the Mad Mac, where I write all the notes and stuff. And so I can have a log of each day on what happened on each day. But what I do now is I actually put all that day in a timeline. I then get AI on Adobe to transcribe it. I then export that as a text file, and then I then put it into ChatGPT, and I get it to put it into the format that I have for my production list for the day. So it has, blah blah blah, the car, what happened on that day, all the details, suspension, gearbox, motor, and what we talked about. And I have just like a list of all those on my Google Docs, and I use it so much, man. Holy moly. Even just for like my editing software is doing this. Why is it doing it? How do I fix it? Boom, fixes it. I can fix it, kind of thing. All my scheduling, and a lot of photos and stuff as well. I do use Adobe. I use like generative expand all the time because, like I say, I'm out there shooting Mike. I'm having to make sure that I make the most of every time he comes past. So that means I don't have time to do photos because I'm shooting video every time. So then I'll go back in, I'll screenshot all these cool screen grabs. And the good thing about 4K is I can do that at a, without losing too much data. Obviously I can't blow them up onto a poster, but I can then reframe them with AI. So I just, because obviously when I'm screenshotting it comes out as 16:9, but I can AI them into like a more of a normal photo so it looks normal. I can AI them into a wallpaper for phones. It's just giving me more of a use for things that I wouldn't have been able to do before. And it's not like I would have hired someone to do that or something before, like I'm taking someone's job. I'm like, no, I'm just able to do way more with my content now than I would have been able to. I haven't done any crazy AI like because Adobe now you can on Premiere you can extend clips now apparently.
Oh, okay.
So like, if your clip finishes a little bit earlier than you wanted it to, you can expand it out and it will generate what it thinks happens after that clip, which is pretty bizarre. But classic Adobe, they're milking it, and it's a token system, and you got to pay for tokens. So you only have like a certain. So I haven't even tried it because I'm like, I can't be bothered using my tokens just in case I need it for something else.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, AI is like one of those things where it's. I see what people are scared of it and worried because of making things from scratch that aren't real, but I just use it to enhance what I do and help my workflow. It's a workflow thing for me massively. Huge thing that I use all the time. And I wouldn't be able to do the stuff that I do, and the new project that Mike and I are coming out with, I would not be able to release that or be able to get it done without AI helping me out. No way. AI, baby. Do you use AI for anything?
Nah, not really. Only like little things like on the stream, generate like instead of make emote things for people. Yeah, I just type something in there and it'll come up with something. Type in a few things. Oh, I made a t-shirt for one of my merch things. I just come up with a design idea and I typed it up until it was all good, and then added some text and stuff because it sucks with text. Like I use Gemini or whatever, but yeah, when you try and have it something that says, say these words on it, half the time it can't.
No, I get what you mean.
The letters.
Yeah, actually the video that I just finished, that'll be coming out in the next couple of days. The title Gunsai, I literally was like done with the video. I was like, this needs like a title on it. So I just went into ChatGPT, got it to make up a logo. And I'm like, yep, that's me. And now like the logo on the video is ChatGPT. But another massive thing, because I actually have the paid version of ChatGPT, which is like the, I don't know, $14 a month or whatever. And it does deep research, which is crazy. So
yeah, I haven't got into the deep research, but
it's actually really good. So there's a lot of things. That's the one thing about working with Mike is I'm always chasing my tail. I'm always needing to be a professional or know exactly what he's talking about before we get there. And one thing about me is I know a lot about cars, but I don't know heaps of technical stuff about cars like yourself and mechanics and like a lot of other people. So to get me on the same wavelength, so like say if I'm doing a piece with Mikey about different diffs or something like that, I'll go deep research differentials for me in terms of cars and all the stuff, and then it'll come back and it first asks all these other questions before it goes into it, and then I fill them all out, and then it does this, and it has like a loading bar, and it literally, and you can click on the thing and it tells you where it's searching, Reddit or these websites, and then it's talking to itself as well. It's like, I just found this, but I'm not sure if it's completely correct, so I'm going to search this, blah blah blah, and it just goes for about 5 minutes all over the web, and then it comes back to you, and it's gone through all these blogs and stuff that you would never be able to find, and it gives you like this massive rundown, and then I'll get it to be like, okay, now make that shorter for me into bullet points so I can act like I know what I'm talking about to someone who does.
So how much do you know about diffs?
Now I don't. Now no, that's our next topic, and that's literally what I have in my thing. Yeah, I haven't opened it because I'm not going to open it until I'm with Mike, and I'll be like, so when he's answering things, because the thing is, when I'm dealing with those kind of people, they in their head sometimes they don't think about Joe Blog and someone who doesn't have the background knowledge. So then he says something, and I can look at this form, and then I'll go, oh, break it down even further, go back a step to or whatever, kind of thing. What does a stock diff do, kind of thing.
Yeah, I find that even with the other two that I've done of this, when I look back at them, I'm like, people won't even know what that is, but because I know the story behind it, like
Yeah.
I've already connected all the dots in my head, so I don't even think about it. But yeah, that is a good point that
Yeah.
sometimes you have to break it down a little bit more.
And that's the thing, like it's all on my shoulders in terms of planning and shooting and then editing and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to get in the edit and I'm like, there's going to be so many holes in here. Like, you know, like he talks about this, but then jumps to that. Like, what's the process in between? And just having those cheat sheets, because that's the hard thing about doing everything, you know, like I'm standing in front of him with my camera and I'm looking at my audio constantly. I'm looking at my video recording. I'm looking at my framing. Is he in focus? Oh, fuck. I'm not even listening to bloody what he's saying, you know? So it's one of those things you need to constantly be making sure you're on the ball, listening to what he's saying, framing, making sure he's saying the right things, all that kind of stuff. So it's a massive trial and error. And I find like just having ChatGPT lets me relax a little bit with some things because I know I can lean on it, even though it's not 100% right all the time. I'm not using it as facts. I'm not standing in front of camera and telling you how a diff is made off a sheet that ChatGPT wrote. I'm asking Mike questions from a background knowledge that I've got from ChatGPT, which I think is the right way to do it, rather than, fuck guys, we're giving an info on diffs, but we don't know what we're doing, so let's ask ChatGPT and write it off that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, I've just looked at the time. I wasn't sure how long you want to do this. I'm learning a lot, so
Yeah.
it's all very interesting for me. But the big question would be, working with Mike, have you put a rotary in your car yet?
we do have some plans.
Okay, send because we didn't even get in. We haven't gotten your car. I thought, like, I don't know how long you want to do this for, but
Oh, I'm loving this.
no, I'm like learning so much as well. So it's
That's
like,
good. I hope the people are learning stuff as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
I'm happy to keep going if you
Oh,
have more
yeah,
questions
sweet
too.
as.
I think there's some things I kind of wanted to talk about in terms of like back in the day, because I don't know if you remember like Death Wish?
Yeah, yeah. I actually watched that like
Yeah.
a minute before you came on because I'm like,
Really?
I'm sure there was an odd logo at the start. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because my first person I crewed for at D1 was Ben.
Wow.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
Yeah. See Ben, I love Ben. Ben Boucher's the man.
Yeah, he is very much there. But yeah, so because I was like, I'm sure that was at the start of things. So I looked it up and I was like, oh yeah, there's odd. Because yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's a few things. So we've got the Death Wish video, we got Chem Block video, we got Milk Run video. Those are probably like three of my most proud. I mean, apart from the mic stuff, obviously, but three of my most proud projects from when I was like kind of freelancing and stuff. So the Death Wish one. So a lot of people probably don't know how far I go back. So I first started doing. Once I realized I really want to get into the car stuff, I started going to car shows, and that was literally when cars were parked on the grass, like the Mount or whatever, and you'd walk around all the cars, and that was Guy Maxwell,
Yeah,
that
yes, his
was
face was on the thing. Yeah, on the
freaking
Death Wish one.
way
Yeah.
back in the day, like when Guy was still Mad Max Photography. He had his accident, and he started branching out into doing car shows in Rotorua and Tauranga and all that kind of stuff. So I've been working with Guy probably. Well, I don't really work with him much anymore because he's found some other real good videographers that can spend more time with him. It's hard for me now, but yeah, I work with Guy a lot back in the day. So naturally, as he started stepping up doing stuff, I would do stuff with him. So one of our first big projects, like should we do something cool, was the Death Wish video, and he helped organize a lot of that. Closing down the road, getting the road repainted because it was a forestry road at the back of Rotorua, and I think there are only conditions where we just had to close the road off while we were filming and remark the road at the end. of the day, and I think one of Guy's friends was a road marker or whatever it is. So that was our first kind of, and this was back with my mate Simon from film school. We had the worst cameras, like literally the worst cameras. I think I shot it on like I want to say a 7D, but I think it might have been a 600D, like so barely HD. No gimbals. GoPro 2 maybe. I had a GoPro. I didn't have the very first GoPro, but I think I had a GoPro 2. And it was, how we did it was, I had me and Simon videoing it. So we would kind of just choose sections, and we would just be like, okay, Ben, I'm on the inside, he's on the outside, just drift through here, just make sure you're initiated before you come into shot, and go all the way out, and then we'll just kind of move up the road. And his mate Jeff, I don't know if you remember,
Yeah, I know
Jeff.
Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah, freaking animal. So it was supposed to be a 2-car shoot. So the whole plan was like, they're like drifting together and doing the whole thing together, I think. And I think one of the first shots is Jeff just sits it on the spot, just on the limmy. And I can't remember. I think he blew a gasket or some shit. And he was, oh, no. He blew his gearbox, I'm pretty sure. Just from like the first shot. So like we were at the shoot being like, okay, well, there goes that story. And we had to rethink the whole thing at the shoot, and we pretty much, I changed the idea to Ben drifting up this road, and then Jeff's sitting up on the top of the hill, and he's like reading a magazine, the performance car magazine. I think Ben's in it or something. I can't remember, something like that. And then and Ben comes into shot, and then they have this little thing where they do a skid, and that was where he actually blew his car up or something. And the rest of the video was Ben. But it's just so buzzy to look back at those things. Like, we were hanging out the back of a ute, completely handheld with a camera with no stabilization. Like, we're all freaking screaming off the top of our lungs, being like, yeah, this is so sick. We were pretty much just more stoked that we were allowed to drift on a road and film it and stand wherever we want. And then we're like, oh, wait, we're actually making a video from this. But yeah, it's definitely one of those videos that I look back on, and it's cool to see what we were able to make all those years ago. Like, it was a lot harder to do that kind of stuff back then. And then fast forward to, like, say, the Milk Run with David Hunter, and a far bigger crew. So many years later, and still with the core kind of with the core goal of just drifting and roading through it. But that one was interesting as well. That was, the Milk Run was very interesting, because that was never the Milk Run. That was, I was brought on, I was told about that video. I think I was at D1 one time, and I met this guy, Thomas, for the first time, and he's like, oh, I'm doing this video shoot, and I've got this production crew coming and all this stuff, and do you know how to use a gimbal or something like that? I can't remember what he said to me. I was like, oh yeah, I know how to use a camera and a gimbal, and been around cars a fair bit. He's like, oh cool, I can have you in you can be one of the camera assists or something like that in the forest or something like that. And then I was like, yeah, sweet as. And then it ended up coming around, and we it was all organized, and I think it was a couple days before the shoot, like 36 hours or 42, something just before the shoot. And he rings me, and he's like, yeah, I just fired the main production crew or something. I'm like, oh yeah, sweet. And I think just before that, I'd been asked to just do GoPros. So like, they'd decided, okay, we've got enough other cameramen, so you can just do the in-car stuff. So like, I was just going to mount the GoPros and start them for the runs, way easier to have someone just solely doing that. And then, yeah, a couple hours before, I find out I'm shooting it pretty much, I think, and kind of helping run the whole thing, which was a hell of a thing to be thrown into. So pretty much it was an interesting shoot. There was a lot of people there. It was wet as well, which made it pretty difficult, and we had to change the kind of theme of it. But what happened was we kind of, because I was never editing it. I was just kind of shooting it. I was seeing myself as just like I'll do what you say, like you do the audio. I would do it differently, but I'll do it how you want to do it because you're editing it. That's fine. It's your project. And then we had sponsors and stuff for that event, for that project. So there was like a deadline for it, and ended up getting quite close to the deadline. I think almost like a couple days. It had been a couple weeks, and David and I would watch the edits, and from our perspectives, we know how to we're familiar with driving and sequencing driving shots and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the edit that had been done just didn't quite make sense. And it wasn't the fact that it wasn't a good edit. It just like for a driving sequence, you can't just have a shot of a wheel locked up on a handbrake and then go into an in-car shot of him on the loud pedal, like kind of thing. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. And those were kind of things that were kind of hard to explain to him. It kind of just needs to come naturally unless you're standing behind him telling him exactly how to edit it. So it got to the point where we were about 24 hours away from having to show this to Link ECU and Rotorua Tourism and all these people that had paid money. And I think I did a 24-hour all-nighter and just started from scratch and did that whole video. And I think I did that whole video, and then what happened was I didn't quite like that there was no story behind it.
Well,
That BMW one,
yeah.
we still had like the reading of the book and I'm drifting up, and it kind of had like a little bit of
Ben forgot his notes or something on that. Was it that one? Or was it this
what
one?
talking
No,
or
I remember him saying something about it, and because he had an original plan for that
yeah,
bragging rights one,
he
and
did.
then
No, we went to what we were gonna do. Like he had pretty much come up with that whole idea and stuff. But like I say, once Jeff made his
blew the
car
car.
unusable, we had to rethink it, and that's where we kind of adapted it a bit. But Ben was fully a part of that as much as just driving, for sure.
I remember him saying he had a story or notes or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the milk run didn't have the milk run.
Yeah, it didn't. It didn't have it, and it was kind of missing a bit. So that's when I pretty much wrote the whole script for the start of it, and I was like, let's, have him going and doing the milk run. And
So was there originally no premise at all? It was just
nah, there
like a
wasn't. It
random
was
backroad
yeah, it
skid.
was more just driving in the middle of Rotorua, like showing the tourism kind of thing, and then
Which makes sense why that mountain bike was in there.
yeah. So that's just like it's showing the different aspects of Rotorua, and Thomas, the guy who organized it, his background is mountain biking and all that kind of stuff. So that's where he kind of brought in all that side of it. And then I wanted to bring in a more of a human aspect and more of a jokey kind of Kiwi theme, and that's where I wrote that script with the going to get the milk, and that's actually Thomas's parents that we filmed, and we just went back to Rotorua for an afternoon, shot that stuff with his dad and his mum, and then integrated it into what everyone knows is now the milk run, which was quite cool. And they were a bit iffy on calling it the milk run and all that kind of stuff, and but I think it was cool to give it a topic or a name that was separate to the whole drifting theme, because people, when you say the milk run, like people who have seen it usually know what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
sure. Um,
Yeah.
do you produce anything for anyone else other than Mike at the moment, or just full? It doesn't sound like you have any time to do anything else, but from 24-hour editing marathons, it would not surprise me.
I don't really. There are people that I hold close to my heart that I'll always have time for, and that's like people like the Jenkins, Troy, and Ben, Tay, obviously Tay James, the PB boys, both Cody and Case. I always have time for those boys because and Sean and stuff like that. But it's just because I believe in them as drivers and people, and And I try, a lot of the reason why I do stuff for people is to try help them grow their socials and all that kind of stuff to do better. So yeah, yeah. When there's cool project happening and stuff, like I'll definitely have all those kind of boys in mind, and if I can help elevate them, I will. But obviously, my priority is with Mikey and Lincoln at the moment. So it's hard to kind of put those people to the side that I've always kind of worked with, and they help me as much as I've helped them.
Yeah, but because the level of workload that it sounds like you have on your plate is
Mm.
doesn't sound like there'll be much left to
No,
go
there's
around.
not, and with our with the thing that Mikey and I are building at the moment, I'm creating an insane amount of content that people haven't even seen yet. So it's quite hard when I go and do all these YouTube things as well, because I need to get them out. But then I'm also creating and film and editing a whole bunch of other content as well, which people haven't even seen or know about yet. So it's it's a lot of mahi, and I pretty much every waking moment is working, and this, funnily enough, this will be the longest time I have away from work on my trips in between Japan and Europe on Tuesday. But
Oh,
it's cool.
yeah, yeah. Um, I on a couple of the videos, there's drone footage, like on Southern Bash one. Are you piloting that as well?
No way.
No.
No,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
one thing I can happily say, that like I bring in other people because drone has just become its own thing now. It's with regulations and FPV and normal drones. It's enough for one person to do at an event, let alone me. I mean, it might be different if I was going to the event to just solely shoot the event, but since I'm having to capture one people or two people or whatever, like I have to make sure that I'm shooting them on my video and getting that shot. Drone and stuff comes second thought. So for Southern Bash, we've been fortunate enough to be able to collaborate. So Summer Bash last year, we had DJI Ferntech, which is the distributor in Auckland. They came down and showcased their drones and stuff, which was awesome. Um, and they had like a thermal drone and all this kind of cool stuff that we were able to test out. And then Southern Bash, I had a real cool guy, Daniel, this German guy who I had met at Summer Bash, and he just travels around New Zealand doing cool touristy stuff. And he said that he was able to come to Southern Bash, and he got me some amazing, cool footage. Obviously, everyone would have seen his edit of the bus. His edit went viral, 4 million views, I think, of the drift bus, which was awesome to see him get a little bit of recognition from that. But ideally, as I'm moving forward, my goal with what I'm making with Mikey at the moment is to bring in um, some return on investment on what I do, so I can grow the media house of the Mad Lab just as much as he does with the car stuff. And I want to be able to have shooters all over the world, drone operators. If you're at the event and you create content, I want to have a kitty litter of money that I can distribute per event to people who can help me out with footage and stuff. I want to help the community grow at the moment, um, because it isn't seen as a profitable area of the industry, and I want to help, because that's one thing. Like I say, with all these people that I've met back in the day and doing videography and stuff, is a lot of them have had to just not give up, but just hang it up and get a real job because their family relies on it and stuff. And I want to see more people in the media area flourish and make good money from it. And hopefully, Mike and I can help instigate a foundations for that.
What do you how where do you think that sort of money, like because there's
Come from?
not, yeah, like there's not a lot. Obviously motorsport costs a lot, but on maybe Mike's an exception in New Zealand. There's not as much put in as gets spent, sort of, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
I totally get it, and that's the same with Mikey as well, though. Like, you know, they invest a lot of money back into their program and all that kind of stuff. I'd say a lot of their program is run at break even or a loss kind of thing. You know, obviously they've done well for themselves, so they know how to keep themselves alive. But I truly believe that personalities will win at the end of the day.
I have that opinion as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard for some drivers because driving comes top priority. But just look at Mikey. Go back to his Import X videos of like him. Yeah, bro, freaking yeah, you know, like he's learned to adapt, but hasn't changed. You know what I mean? He's still himself, but he is a person who is marketable, and people love him because his main motto is under promise, over deliver. You know, like his brand partners are always super happy with everything he brings to the table because it's more. You know, like he, he's his number one priorities are fans and partners. Literally, no one else matters to him. You know, like it's his brand partners are always so loyal to the point where he has multiple partners in the same demographic, but they are all willing to give him time, product, or money because they know that he's worth it. You know, like what I mean? So I see a lot of these people like pushing hard at the moment, and they just need to keep going. Like, I mean, look at what Sean's done. Like he just built, you know, 3 comp cars for international people to come over and drive at LZ Fest. That's massive. Like the amount of undertaking that would have been, like the financial input he would have had to have put in himself would have been huge. And it's just stuff like that that really kind of puts you out into like an area where a lot of people won't necessarily, they won't see you otherwise, you know, like Dwayne McQueever, like he's the man, like and to build a car for him and get on that radar is huge. Ty Jeffries is massive in Australia and Europe. Like, so what Sean needs to do from this is capitalize on all that and then go and see those boys overseas.
I think a lot more personality needs to be put into it on the on the video front and the, I don't know, just every your social media stuff and all that, because that's what I tried to do a little bit with Dino's stuff, is put him in the video as well so that he's more than a car. And then, doing this, hopefully I can get a few people to come in and see, because you'd know, we see behind the scenes, but a lot of those guys in the drift scene, car scene, are personalities. Like if you can capture that and show, they're entertaining whenever you're around them, is just a good time. So if you get them to be able to capture that and show it, people would be entertained in that. And then a lot of the time when you get them on camera, it's gone. Yeah, and so I don't know.
It's the fine line, bro, and like I think that's the biggest thing. Like you and I probably have we have it a little bit easier with, say, Dino and Mikey, because we get along really well, and it's all about breaking that barrier to the point where you're not just a cameraman, you're just one of the boys with the camera, and Dino can give you a lot more natural reactions rather than like some rando in his face trying to get like whatever they're joking about at the time, and that's, you're exactly right. Dino's videos are the only videos I watch at D1, literally. Like there's so many videos that come out and it's just the same thing. Shot of the ECU, shot of the driver's putting his thing down, shot of him drifting past, shot of him switching, shot of him tandem. I'm like, that could have been the same video every time it's been out, kind of thing. It's just the same, and sponsors and viewers and all that kind of stuff aren't going to jump on that kind of thing. they're gonna jump on a personality, you know, like they want to see a future in their brand. They want to see someone who is good with their fans. You know, like I put heaps of stuff of Mikey signing signatures and talking to his fans, interacting with his fans for that reason, to show that, like, don't be afraid to come up to him, chat to him. He's always got time for anybody. And for a sponsor or a partner, like that's one of their biggest things, is like, how are you going to represent the brands at the end of the day? You know, like, is it just, you're just going to go blow the tires off and put the car in the trailer at the end of the day? Or are you going to have your car on display, make sure you're signing every signature until it's done, doing some cool pieces, having a joke around with the crew? Because at the end of the day, like you say, like, these guys are the funniest people I know. Like, some of these guys, Dino is freaking hilarious, you know, like the whole crew, the crew aspect with Tay James, like, and you guys and Dino is the funnest shit. I loved that crew because of the fun we had. I was literally the most boring person there, you know, like what I mean? Like, everyone was just always having fun, and we were drifting, you know what I mean? Like, it was just but
I've
it's
got a I've got a clip, and it's, I don't know if you know Whippy
yeah, of
Photography.
course.
Yeah, he's like, we're just, I can't remember, I think Dino was dancing, or that we're doing something dumb, and then he's like, do you think you guys are the special crew or something like that? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you know, I haven't
Yeah,
seen any other crews, so I imagine
yeah,
everyone's,
yeah.
you know, doing what we're doing. And he's like, oh, they're not like this. And I was like, oh.
Oh, okay. It's all those little funny little things, man, and that's almost how I break up the footage as well from it being too serious or too drifty. Is you have those random cutaways to, like, you know, Dino puts it in the wall and it cuts to the fucking mechanic or something, like, fuck
Mm.
again, or something, you know, like, just funny shit where they're just like trolling each other, like, yeah, I don't know, it's hard to kind of explain, but people think that you just need just drifting stuff. But, you know, like, there's an edit that I sent to Mikey this morning, and he's like, oh, can we just have a little bit more fan stuff or whatever in it? And I'm like, 100%, you know, it's just one of those things where I forget that there's lots of people that we're pleasing here, not only the viewer, the partners and the fans and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you juggle a lot of hats, kind of pleasing a lot of people.
um, we'll wrap this up. I think, like, this has been heaps of fun. I've
Yeah, man.
enjoyed every minute, but um, otherwise we're going to waste all your days off. We'll go. Would you have any advice for anyone who wants to get into this, whether they're starting
100%.
it or a little bit, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the overarching advice is just never give up. Like, that's pretty much, like, I could have given up many times. Um, and the whole thing is, I am nowhere near the best at what I do, and I never will be. And I never consider myself to even be the best in New Zealand or anything. It's just the fact that I just don't give up is the reason I'm where I am right now, is because I've been willing to sacrifice a lot of things and just pursue and just, yeah, just never give up, pretty much. And that's the only reason I am where I am. It's not necessarily because I'm the best. I've had people that have believed in me along the way, and I shout out to all the people that I've worked with, because each little bit that I've done is helped me get to where I am. But I feel like it's also like we say, go out and befriend people and get in the circle. And because that was the whole thing when I was doing stuff with the Jenkins or with you guys, I was always trying to make sure that I was immersed with the culture of whatever you guys were doing, so you guys felt real natural around me. If you want to get stuff that's going to push your whole program to the future, is get someone in that can be one of the boys and showcase the fun and what goes on behind the scenes. Because the behind the scenes is almost just as cool and what people want to see as the event drifting stuff. They want to know that Dino has a job just like me. Dino's got a wife just like me. He's got a kid. He's got mates that troll him. You know, like, it's once you're trying to break that barrier, the viewer and who you are. You're trying to break whatever whatever the barrier the viewer has put up on how they think you are. Because that's the one thing that I get with people coming up to me and like, man, Mikey is actually like cool as, and he's got so much time for people. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's pretty much how he's always been, It's just,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one thing I've always noticed about him is
yeah.
if someone wants to come and say hey and get a signature or a handshake or whatever, he's just like, yep.
The worst part is about all that is I have to be the bad guy, because what happens is he gets this huge line and he will never say no to anybody, but
Yeah.
he's got to say get on track. And so I got to go tell the people in the line, guys, he's got a signing at 2 o'clock. You can come back then. They're like, oh, what the fuck? Because Mikey doesn't want to have that one kid who came up to him and Mikey said no. And that's
Yeah.
all that kid remembers, It's
Yeah,
those little
for sure.
things.
Yes, let's go from that. What's up for you from here? Do you have
There's a lot of things down, I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's a long way down, but
Yeah.
where do you see the next step?
My 100% effort is into this Mad Mike program. And that is going to bring more of a community. Like I see. So it's going to be different from how everyone sees Mad Mike at the moment. We're going to try to pivot it a bit into more of a far more community aspect, and that is where I truly believe the next 5, 10, hopefully many years with Link coming up and stuff. Like Link and I get along really well, so I really see that growing. But with all of that, it's not just for Mikey; it's for, like I say, the whole community. Like more racetracks in New Zealand, more time for drifting, more grassroots stuff. I feel like drifting in New Zealand is in a bit of a weird position at the moment,
Yeah.
as you would 100% know. It's gone through so many different stages though, so like what was the golden era, who freaking knows. It's been so different, but I just truly I just believe that it needs to take a step back, and stop tripping on itself, and yeah, I know the stuff like the Gank um day look cool as well, like to kind of see a track day that isn't controlled too corporately kind of stuff. So like it'll be interesting to see how all that kind of stuff goes, and hopefully that inspires a bit more of the grassroots scene to revive again, because especially with all the stuff that I'm seeing from the government being really threatening towards boy races and stuff, I'm like, well, yeah, we're kind of getting squeezed out on both ends at the moment. But yeah, hopefully we can have some cool community aspects, and at the end of the day, I want to help the younger guys coming up learn about drift cars, and so that it's not just mechanically minded people that get into drifting. It's the people like myself with media liking, or just anyone being able to gain knowledge or experience from what we're going to show, to be able to get into drifting and help grow the sport even more, and then hopefully that brings more sponsors and partners for all the bigger guys, and more worldwide travel for everyone, and just fun.
And if people want to keep up with all your adventures, do you get much time to document your own adventures?
I don't, but I do have my Instagram is Isaac.odd, ISAAC.odd. My last name is not odd, which a lot of people think that. I've had airplane tickets booked for Isaac Odd, and I'm like, oh, my name's actually Isaac Lyon, but that's cool. Uh, yeah, I do. It's gonna be cool, and you're gonna enjoy this as well. Over like this new thing that we're gonna be doing is I'm gonna start opening up on a lot of stuff that I'm doing as well, how I do things, do a lot of more behind the scenes on the track, my thought processes on why I'm standing in certain places, how I shoot things and order, all the, even how I edit and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, well, even this, like from just shows how I've learned how much you have going on.
and
There's
it's
so
only touching the
much.
surface as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I'd love to, pick your brain for hours more, but
Yeah. And it's the cool thing. Like, I'm at a point where I'm so happy where I am right now that I genuinely would love to help people learn what I know, you know, kind of thing. I'm not like trying to fight people off or like, oh, I don't want you to know what I know, so you're better than me. Like, I'm so happy with where I am right now that I genuinely just want the whole industry to move up. I
Yeah,
don't want to,
yeah.
because it's the only thing with New Zealand, as you know, like, you know, the tall poppy and people not wanting. And I've been that person, you know. Like, I'm not saying that I haven't been that kind of person. I just I feel like the situation we're in right now is almost because of that. Don't let them get up higher than me. Oh, they're doing good. Don't support them. Don't support them. Act like they're not there. Act like they're not there. You know, like, whereas if we all go, the good thing about
Yeah,
America, they all do so
everything will
well because
go
they're
up.
all
Yeah.
confident. You know, they're all just so confident, Americans. They don't really care about what the other person thinks. They just know that they can get it done. You know, I think we're slowly getting there, but hopefully I can help people gain some knowledge and learn lots of things that I've learned over the lots of years that I've done stuff wrong, and help people stay in this industry for longer, because that's the main thing. Like I say, people, it's hard to stay here for a long time.
Try and build a bit more of an industry in the
Yeah,
whole thing. Yeah. Oh well. Thank you very much, Isaac. This has been mean. Yeah.
my pleasure. Thank you.